at least once or twice. So I think it'd be nice. I feel like some closure.
Yeah,
Or patrons.
exactly.
Yeah. Other special things.
I'm hoping to be done by the 19th. I'm just waiting on these final ones.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. So I will.
All right.
Did I send you the recent list? I have. Yeah. I'll
Send me one.
I'll send you one midweek, and then you can make a report. I don't need to.
Okay. Yeah.
It's your thing.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't want to
Yeah.
like take the spotlight.
Yeah, so I'll send you that. Hopefully, I'll have all accepted sometime.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
So, and then the team, I really want to check the team because we don't want to.
Right. Yep. And I changed that everywhere. John's spelling.
Okay. So I'll write all that out. Morning, Bruce. How are you?
Please, Derks, be getting over.
No. Or not. How are you? I'm good. Glad to see you. How are you, Bruce?
Well, do you want to move? I think she forgive us. We can sit.
There you go.
I will send you a mail in. It's good to see you. I've got stuff ready to mail out. I just had to get some envelopes today. So, yeah, so I'll send you a letter with kind of instructions. I'll send you an order of service and then a letter from Christmas. If you should want someone to come in and do music, we will fit that in that spot. But we can't pay anyone else.
Austin said that the choir, although I knew where they're not singing this morning, I said, no, you don't have to.
Yeah, Todd Roulette, choir companies, will be there for most Sundays. So he's easy to work with. Last summer I ran into big trouble because Robert Byron wouldn't play for the people that
It's quite the
speakers wanted
that's
to
the
bring in.
yeah.
So anyway, Todd's really good at that. But you don't. But again, you don't have to do it. Yeah.
I mean, you could.
But if you can't find anyone to do that, then Todd can. Yeah. So I have you down for June 3rd. Yes. Yeah, actually, I first right.
Well, you can always hold back the time back.
Yes, and that's what I want stories. This year is about stories.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Fountain Street Church, a place where love and compassion and hope and peace are the shared works of this church's liberated and liberating faith. And on behalf of everyone who participates in the works of that very faith, it is good to welcome each and every one of you here this morning on this quiet February morning. Congratulations to those of you who figured out how to get here with the recent road closure. I'm impressed. It's no small feat, and I see many people are still coming in, and so we will welcome them as they are able to come in. It is good to be with you. Reverend Jody Betton, our minister, interim consulting minister rather, continues to get treatment in the hospital, and so we continue to hold her close to our heart. And I am also so grateful that our chaplain, Derks Peterson, has been able to roll with me in some of the adjustments we've had to make, and so she will be speaking with us this morning. I'm very grateful for your presence and your collegiality today. And it is wonderful to center our hearts for this time of worship with you. As we do so and people continue to come in and get comfortable, I want to invite you into this time and into this community with these words from Reverend Sherry Woodbury. Hear them as they call us into the heart of our community today. Again, we reground ourselves here in our highest values. Love is at the center and foundation of this faith. Love is the power that holds us together as a community. As we enter into worship, then let us open our hearts to the healing power of liberating love. Because love is not something that we simply receive, but something we practice together in community. Let fall away all that might distract us from the wholehearted practice of love. Let us be accountable to one another for doing the work of living into this church's shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. As we continue to listen and to learn, to act and to grow, may we each be a part of the unfolding of wholeness, both deeply loving and truly allowing ourselves to be loved. It's in the spirit of that very love that you are invited to turn to one another, or you might have to do a bit of a hike to get to one another this morning, and greet each other in the peace of love. Our first ancient witness on the themes of perception comes to us from the book of Romans, chapter 13, verse 1. Here, what the ancient spirit is speaking to our contemporary presence this morning. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Our second ancient witness this morning on the theme of perception comes to us from Galileo Galilei. Hear his words as they invite us into our theme this morning. In questions of science, the authority of 1,000 is not worth the humble reasoning of a single individual. And our contemporary witness this morning comes to us from the reading And Then by Judy Chicago. Hear these words as they call us into consciousness with one another. And then all that has divided us will merge, and then compassion will be wedded to power. And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind, and then both men and women will be gentle. And then both women and men will be strong. And then no person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
It's lovely to see all of you this morning. I said to the choir Thursday night, I know you're not singing, but please come, because I need to see your faces out there, and a lot of them were paying attention. Thank you. It occurred to me to take a moment to explain why I chose number 200, A Mighty Fortress is Our God, this morning, because it's not one that we do hear very often. And if you care to go back through the words of that after my talk and think about authority, you will figure out why I picked it this morning. I see you all out there. My eyes give me information. My ears do too. I hear the occasional cough or sneeze. When Bev Howerton was the choir director and we sang a response after the period of silence, he said that he listened for 3 coughs, and then he knew it was time to sing. This is information, not perception. That which comes in through our senses is strictly information. What we do with it is perception. I first pondered this idea a few years ago when I got my hearing aids. They were given to me at a certain setting. I presumed this setting was normal. Then, in some circumstance, I turned them up, then down, then up, then down, and I began to wonder what level was right. What level was the way it was supposed to be? And then I realized that even if I had a sense of what my hearing was like, say, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or when I was a child, it was all a matter of perception. The same setting seems different in different circumstances, which is why it must be adjusted. You've surely had this experience with something as simple as temperature, for instance. We joke about how 55 degrees in the spring calls for shorts and a t-shirt, and 55 degrees in the fall means a light jacket or a sweater. And if our own perception changes, how can we have any concrete idea of the perceptions others have of us, or of themselves, or of events that occur simultaneously to more than one person? I remember clearly things my mother claims didn't happen. They are probably more memorable to me because they had an emotional impact, while her perspective and perception were different. In a high school psychology class one day, a person entered the front of the room, performed some movements, maybe said something, and then left. The teacher had us take out paper and pencil and write down what we witnessed. Of the 30 students in the class, there were 30 different accounts. There may have been occasional details that overlapped, but each person's perception was colored by their expectations and experience. So we're all walking around basically in our own bubbles of body-mind perception. And we assume, because our own experiences dictate it, that others, of course, see and experience things just as we do. And if they don't, they are wrong, or perhaps misled or mistaken. We have only our own experiences to call upon and to trust. How else can it be? Now let's broaden this concept of perception beyond immediate physical sensations and events. As a 68-year-old woman, I perceive events very differently than, say, a 25-year-old woman or a 40-year-old man, or any one of the billions of other people who inhabit our planet. How can I trust someone else's perception and experience? What makes me think that they will trust mine? I choose to convey authority to others, or they to me, and this is largely based on perception. Are you an authority? On what? Why? Authority has to do with knowledge. An authority is usually someone who knows a lot about a given topic. And sometimes we give authority to someone who really doesn't know all that much. And that's the key. We give authority. We confer it upon someone. When a church ordains a minister, that person may have studied scriptures and church governance and achieved a master's or a PhD, Or they may be someone who is recognized as a servant to the church or denomination and holds no special degrees. The people decide whether to confer authority. In a place such as ours, where rational thought, education, and demonstrated intelligence are paramount, we highly value college degrees. The higher, the better. And to the educated goes the authority. Other things that encourage us to give someone authority: mode of dress. A sharp, current style suit draws more authority than, say, a blazer and slacks or a skirt. When I worked in a law office many years ago, I was subtly encouraged to wear heels at work. My mode of dress, though acceptable to the letter, was not acceptable in spirit. The clothes were too bohemian, imagine that, and the impression given did not present the proper authority of the law office. Age. A person who is youthful in appearance has a much more difficult time projecting authority than someone older, no matter how much education or experience the person may have in a given field. And someone who is actually older has even more decision-making weight because we give that person the authority earned as we see it through years lived. Other aspects of appearance, as mentioned before with regards to the suit. People have certain ideas about dress for church or public speaking. When I was growing up, a minister wore a flowing robe every week with different stoles for different occasions and specific periods in the church year. Church choirs always wore robes. This mode of dress represented authority and credibility. In many cases, it is a kind of authority that people who come here object to. It reminds them of aspects of a kind of church they would rather forget. Different perspectives, different experiences, different ideas of authority. Until recently, people in professional positions were expected to dress a certain way. Haircuts were moderate and of some sort of natural color. Tattoos were not visible. Only ears might be pierced. Those who sported an unusual personal appearance according to these rules were outside the norm and basically not to be trusted. Thank goodness some things have changed. A few years ago, when my nephew was getting a fairly large, creative tattoo on his upper arm and shoulder, my mother said, "What are all these young people going to do when they have to get a real job?" The assumption being that employers will not hire people with visible tattoos. I said, "Mom, if employers don't want to hire people with tattoos, they're going to have a hard time finding employees." No longer do we carry a broad perception of tattooed people as criminals. I say some things have changed because, as much as I hate to have to say it, we all know that we remain, as a society and as a church, reluctant to convey authority to women. While women now comprise more than 30% of Fortune 500 boards, they are only around 10% of the CEOs. 27% of Methodist ministers are female, despite comprising 58% of the membership. The UU does much better. According to recent information, the UUA's General Assembly's call for more women in ministry and policy-making roles has brought their female clergy numbers to 60%. Gender is a big element in the perception of authority. A man saying the same words as a woman has a different impact. Even a man talking about things like abortion or rape. And within our church community, there are numerous examples of women's voices, their ideas and opinions being dismissed, talked over, and ignored. As a person who always wants to believe the best about people, I don't think this is deliberate. I don't believe that men in our community are asserting dominance based on a conscious desire to keep women in their place. I believe it's habit. just as women's need to garner men's approval is a matter of habit. At the same time, these habits need to change. And I believe the only way to do it is to become aware of it as it's happening and proceed from a willingness to see it and change it. Some perceptions have changed. Back in 1992, there was a book called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, detailing all the ways that men and women are inherently different. It was not difficult a few decades ago to find articles supposedly encouraging women by defining them as a group that told us all about how much more likely women are to respond emotionally, to even take on the responsibility in a partnership for feeling for both members. These generalizations are part of our perception today, and we give authority based on perception. You've heard this before. A woman who stands up for herself is strident, pushy, bossy. A man who stands up for himself is strong, authoritative. A woman who speaks her mind is angry and defensive. A man who speaks his mind is admirable and respectable. A woman in a position of authority anywhere walks a fine line between being a dictator and a pushover. And why? Because we, in American society at least, don't want to take a good, hard look at our perceptions and our preconceived notions. Imagine you come into a meeting with ideas to share. You get an opportunity to speak, and people talk over you. They disrespect your voice. You have enough wherewithal to protest. I was talking, you say, your voice raised over the din. And then you see the smirks. You have no authority here. No one wanted to hear what you were saying to start with. And now they're really not listening. In raising your voice, you lost what little audience you had. Or your answer to a question is barely acknowledged with a nod from the chair before another person enters the room and is asked the same question. His answer, precisely the same as yours, is accepted and lauded. This rarely happens to white men, but it happens to women, people of color, and people who are considered other all the time. And it happens in this church. The two examples I just gave happened to women here. Changing this pattern requires quite a lot of self-examination, as individuals first, and then as a community. Think about it. The Methodists first ordained a woman in 1956. The Southern Baptists ordained women in 1964, and the Episcopalians got around to it in 1974. That's 50 years ago. I was talking with a Methodist friend recently, and he pointed out that because of the structure of the organization, their churches don't have any choice but to figure out a way to get along with whomever is assigned to their church, be they male, female, or non-binary. That person is there for a certain number of years, and the church must adapt. They are given the person in authority, and that person answers to the authority of the synod or the diocese or whatever larger governing body that organization has. And of course, they all believe they answer to the highest authority of God and or the Bible. A big part of conferring authority is trust. Since we don't have the larger governing structure or the authority of the Bible, whom do we trust? Do we trust one another to have the authority to make decisions for this church? Do we trust that our community will support us as individuals, just as we are? Do we trust the people who serve on our governing board? Do we trust the staff? Do we trust the committees? And if we do not, how do we go about changing this situation? Changing ourselves as individuals by examining our own trust issues, and changing how we interact as a larger group. Every person here has the authority to speak to their own feelings and concerns. That is a given. Every person who calls this place home has a right and a responsibility to own up to what they bring here. Even the frightened, threatened feelings that people have can be heard and faced and accepted and healed if we are willing to change. We each need to address the perceived source of our discomfort, whether that is a person or a policy. We need to address things directly, not by spreading disillusionment and dissension to other congregants. We need to speak, and we need to feel heard and be heard. Until we express our concerns, our disparate perceptions cannot be brought to coherence. Until we speak and are heard, we do not know to whom we want to give authority or how to shoulder it ourselves. Until we stop wondering if our voices are relevant and use them, we do not know how very relevant and important and necessary they are. And until we recognize that every voice is relevant, the voices that have been silenced for so very long in our culture are the ones we need to hear. I know we're all busy. We're all trying to balance our life issues and problems and all the craziness the media throws at us every day. Slow down. Take a breath and listen. First off, what is your inner voice telling you? There's a lot of truth inside that we have a tendency to ignore in favor of the urgent voice of the ego. And second, what are other people, especially the disenfranchised, saying about themselves, about their own lives, and about the way we must change to coexist constructively? There is a lot of truth outside that we sideline because it's new, beyond what's familiar, and requires change. Our perception is our own. Each of us has our own way of seeing the world. Can it change? Of course. Our way of seeing is built over a lifetime of experiences. We can tell ourselves a new story. We can choose to believe and perceive differently. And in so doing, we can change the way we view and interact with authority and the people we choose to give it to. It starts with each of us in our own hearts and minds and perceptions. Let us pause for a moment of silence. Spirit of the divine, draw near to us. May all that lives in you live in us on every level of existence as we understand it. May we have all we need, and may we forgive one another and ourselves for any words or deeds that have caused pain or discomfort. May we live lives of care and compassion and not be drawn into pettiness or despair. For within this realm of understanding is the kingdom of the divine, now and as it has always been. Blessed be.
Friends, we have a rich tradition here with our offering of collecting our shared resources and gifts and then sending 50% of those back into the world where the world's greatest needs coexist with all of us. 50% also stays here. It keeps these ministries going. It allows for us to continue to live into this 155-year-old ministry that we steward together. But the other 50% goes directly back into the world, where we entrust those gifts to be used to their best and highest potential. And so in the spirit of love and in the spirit of compassion for all who exist among and within us, our offering will now most graciously be received. Friends, as we prepare to depart from this part of our shared Sunday experience, we do have some weekly invitations for all of you. First of which, I'd like to draw attention to this morning's beautiful flowers. Those were lovingly given by Cale and Susie Clements in memory of their cherished dog, Puppy, who passed away on Friday. We are with them, their dog of nearly 20 years. So our hearts and our thoughts are with Cale and Susie, and we thank them for bringing Puppy spirit into this time with each of us. I also want to lift up in gratitude just everyone who makes these gatherings possible. This is a reflection of our church and its 155-year ministry. And so from Joe being our accompanist today, to our sound staff, to the ushers and greeters, to everyone upstairs, to Margie Peterson, to each of you who financially and emotionally supports this ministry, from the bottom of my heart and our heart as a staff, thank you so much for being part of this work that we share with one another. You are warmly invited to go to the social hall immediately after this gathering. We have a family promise potluck there. Many people have put a lot into it, and whether or not you brought something for this meal, you are encouraged to be there, because this is where beloved community and practicing love, not just receiving it, but practicing love, is known and manifest. So please find your way to the social hall, get some lunch, enjoy one another's company. It's a lovely day. We're done a little bit early today, and so you'll be able to have some time to spare to grab something to eat and just enjoy one another. Please find your way that way. Following the luncheon, there is a second Sunday series of meetings, and so you can find some of those meetings listed in the back of your program from this morning. You can also find those things listed in the lobby. So if you are going to one of those groups after you've had your lunch, make your way to a second Sunday meeting. I just want to lift up that beginning this week for Christians around the world, it is the season of Lent. And so next week we will have the choir back, and we will have a whole series of readings and a message, because it is my favorite season of the year. It's kind of strange, but I really find this season to be beautiful and full of meaning. And so I'm looking forward to beginning the season of Lent with each and every one of you in a style that is compatible with our beloved Fountain Street ethos and theology. So I look forward to seeing you next week, but in the meantime, please go forth in pursuit of love and peace and hope, knowing yourself and one another better. And until we see you again, know that you are loved, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Go in peace.